Have you ever hit a wall on your financial journey where it feels like no matter how hard you work or how hard you try, you're just spinning your wheels?
Or maybe you told yourself to toughen up and push through it, only to see burnout before any real progress.
If that sounds familiar, you're in the right place. Today, we're redefining what it means to be tough, inspired by the book, Do Hard Things.
We're going to be unpacking how to work with your mind and your body, not against them. We'll also be sharing practical strategies to keep you moving forward towards your financial independence without losing your sanity.
It's about learning to embrace discomfort, harnessing self talk, and finding balance. Because building mental toughness doesn't mean grinding yourself into the ground.
So stick around. By the end of today's episode, you'll have practical tools like a pro, both in your finances and your life. This is the Fi Guys. Let's get after it.
So, how's work been going now that you're doing like extra shit?
It's tough. It's tough. They say when life gets tough, you fall back on your routines. And I would agree with that. But I would also say that you better have some darn good routines and they better be caked into your personality like a madman. Because truthfully, since I've been getting a ton of more hours at work, right? And, we're doing more podcast stuff. I'm doing more content on my own. The holidays and everything that just passed, it's been busy, right? So I think for me, some of my habits that are true for me, like going to the gym, staying consistent with my streams, everything like that, right? They kind of became a little bit shaky. I'm in the final round. I'm getting hit up a little bit and I'm wobbling a little bit and I don't like that. So I'm trying to really become stronger. And I'm thinking maybe today could be the day that I get a little bit stronger and get a new edge on, not really on everybody else, but really an edge on myself. So I'm excited.
Do you feel that like right now with your just daily habits, it's it hard for you to keep up, or do you feel like you're just reacting, or are you actually taking progress? You're actually making the steps consciously, or is it just like shoot, everything's coming at me real fast and like I'm just reacting to whatever happens?
Yeah, I feel like a firefighter right now, honestly. I'm putting out fires left and right. And it's weird because I'm also the, what do they call it? The arsonist as well. So I'm the one causing a lot of the fires by not getting out in front of it. And I'm also full on fighting the fires. It's a real journey of, what's it called when you have like multiple voices in your head? You know what I'm talking about? Schizophrenia. It's a journey of schizophrenia, it feels like. And I'm putting out fires. I'm setting fires. Nothing is going well. We need to shut the fire station down and just start a new forest or something. But yeah, it's I need to regain control, right? And I'm hoping to learn how today, maybe with this book that you're going to be dropping some knowledge bombs on us.
Yeah, and that's the hard part about life, right? It's you want it to be easy. You want to feel like I'm showing up, everyone else makes it look so easy.
Mhm.
But from what I've learned my entire life, it's the obstacle really is the way. It is going through that tough time to find who you truly are. And that's what I really want to discuss today with our book recommendation and our book discussion. And then we're going to take it from the book is not about financial independence. The book is about doing hard things, about sticking to the path and becoming the best version of yourself. But since we are the Fi Guys, we're going to be taking it to a financial realm afterwards. So we're going to start off with redefining this book, Do Hard Things by Steve Magnus, which the book really is a definition on redefining what toughness means. Dominic, you and myself, we are children of the 90s. Before that, our parents, toughness was machismo. It was, if there's a balance, a dichotomy, it was way too far to the right. And it was like, you don't cry, you don't show emotions. The only emotion that a man is allowed to show is anger.
Yeah.
And that does not create for a balanced life.
Mm-hmm. And
So
it may be a single tear on their daughter's wedding day. A single tear though. No two tears. Just one tear. Just you're walking them down the aisle, one tear. That's all. That's all. That's
yeah,
how I
one
was raised.
chair, and then they have to go punch a table.
Yes. And you got to go get drunk, punch a table, and do that whole spiel. So yeah, we definitely need some redefining, and I'm excited for this book. I'm excited for you to drop some knowledge on us. So please continue.
Of course. That's what I really liked about the book is that it took toughness and brought it into the modern age and really tries to redefine what that toughness means. Toughness doesn't mean that you don't have emotions. Toughness doesn't mean that you have to grind through every single day. Toughness doesn't mean that if things suck, you just keep on going after it. So it really challenges the traditional grit and grind mentality that I think we have just kind of in our American ethos.
Mhm.
When you think about the pioneers that blazed the Oregon Trail or made it across, it wasn't those who were the weakest who survived. You had to have grit, you had to have determination. And that worked really, really well for us for a long time. But anything taken to an extreme is a detriment. And that's what I'm beginning to find with our society today. And that's what the book argues. True resilience actually comes from self awareness, understanding of your emotions, and cultivating inner strength
Mhm.
rather than ignoring pain or focusing yourself through discomfort.
Yeah, it's a crazy concept. Everything you said there makes so much rational, logical sense. Yet, as men, we're ingrained that no, I, I, I wasn't. Happiness is for children and ladies, right? For me, I have a purpose. I'm here to serve, and we're just trying to push through, right? Deepening my understanding, no, thank you. Consciousness, no, thank you. I'm just a dumb guy, right? I gotta plow through. I gotta be the provider for the family. I gotta do all these things, right? And there's more to life, right? Even though consciousness can cause you to suffer, consciousness brings a brighter, more vivid life, and that's kind of what I'm hearing just from the start of it.
Yeah. And what I found, this is coming outside of the book, but in America, and especially with
Mhm,
like our Judeo-Christian, like Western way of looking at things, suffering, the more you suffer, like the better level of heaven you attain, right? Like
mhm,
Jesus suffered. Therefore, everyone who suffers must be noble. So we kind of put ourselves into that fire, even if it's not required to do so.
mhm.
And I'm not saying that the fire isn't going to get you better, isn't going to make you grow, but sometimes you don't need to put yourself inside that fire. You don't need to just keep on hurting yourself for no damn reason. So the book really emphasizes four key pillars of toughness, quote unquote toughness. Number one, that's ditching the facade of what toughness, in quotes again, is. And instead of suppressing our feelings, we want to acknowledge them. And more than just acknowledge them, gain control of our emotions. It's a very stoic practice there. The second thing it talks about is listening to your body and building self awareness and how that can help you distinguish between necessary discomfort and harmful stress because there is a difference. There are times where, hey, I'm running and I have that little bit of extra mile and I feel a little tired, but if I push through, I know I'm going to be stronger. Or there's also when I'm running and my ankle hurts and my knee hurts, now my hip's starting to hurt. And if I keep on running, something's going to give. And we are so good, so conditioned at listening to our body when it's saying, like, hey, man, like you're pushing me too hard. You're just like, no, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. We're going to go harder because this is what hard things do. This is what toughness means. It means grinding through no matter what. And whenever you say anything into its extreme, always or never, you're always wrong. That's the only time you're always wrong is when you say always or never.
Mhm. Yeah, because we know only a Sith deals in always or nevers, right? That's the quote, correct? Okay, okay. You said there was a fourth, and was there
No,
another
there's
one?
actually two more. So I just gave you two.
Perfect.
Number three was responding rather than reacting. And that's what we've talked about so many times. We really need to train ourselves. Our listeners need to train themselves. Dominic, you and I need to train ourselves to stay composed and adapt under pressure rather than just reacting to whatever's happening around us.
A lot of stoic principles in this one. I can see why you like this book. I can see exactly
Right?
why you like this book.
And the fourth pillar, embracing discomfort for growth, seeking out challenges that push our boundaries in a sustainable way is the way that we achieve where we want to go. Not seeking out punishment for the sake of punishment, but seeking out punishment for the sake of growth, but also remembering the balance of we don't push ourselves so far, so fast that we can't recover from it. So, our author, Steve, he draws on sports science, psychology, philosophy, and real life personal stories to show that doing hard things doesn't mean being hard on yourself, but it's about working harder, not, it's about working smarter, not just harder.
Mm, okay, okay. Kind of releasing the dumb brain and really kind of starting to educate ourselves on how to be more efficient. Right? We
Yep.
learned how to do hard work. Now let's learn how to be efficient with the hard work, basically.
Yep.
I love it.
So that's really what the book is about. It's redefining that toughness because it's so hard, especially nowadays, for men when they hear like, "Hey, you know, the way you're looking at the world is messed up." You feel like, "Oh, I can't show any emotions, and the only emotion that is acceptable for me to show is anger, single tear, punch." maybe depression, maybe sadness occasionally, but it's really just anger. And that does not show control. That doesn't show balance in any way, shape, or form. So now that we've talked about the book a little bit and gave you kind of a rough thing, and of course, the action step of this week is going to go to find that book at your local library and read it. So we'll get to that when we get there. We're not going to go too much into the book and everything to talk about, but what I really want to do is pose this at a financial independence realm. So, how does this redefinition of toughness actually apply to our personal and financial growth? For example, could listening to your body be analogous to tracking your financial habits to make better decisions? Similarly, how can responding instead of reacting shape the way you handle financial setbacks or unexpected expenses? So, in segment number one, what I want to do is redefine toughness for financial independence. And I think financial independence, especially the FIRE movement, financial independence, retire early, which the FI guys, we are an offshoot of that, but we've rejected the retire early part.
Mhm.
I think there's that traditional myth of FI of cutting expenses to the bone, hustling 24/7 to reach financial independence as fast as you possibly can. And I think we need to redefine what that toughness means. I think we need to make a new definition of that toughness, in that the toughest thing to do is actually to pace yourself and stay engaged in the process, not burning yourself out trying to do it all right now. What do you think about that?
I think that's a solid plan. I think that's a solid plan. We talked a lot about in multiple podcasts here on the channel about how once you reach that number that you have in your mind, everybody has a number. Everybody has a number. I know you do. I know I do. Everybody has a number that they think once I get there, happiness is achieved, right? And you could stretch that out among every single discipline. Once I bench 225, I'm a real man. Once I run a half marathon or a marathon, I'm a runner. It's like you are all you can choose to be something. There's not a lot of threshold. There's not a, you're not passing the bar, right? Now, if I'm going to law school, right, and I'm a lawyer, it's like, well, you didn't pass the bar, so you're not a lawyer. That makes sense, right? But in regards to like what we're talking about, the FIRE movement, FI becoming independent, right? You can choose to be happy, and you can choose to kind of be happy now and not delay that and delay gratification with that. And I think that's one of my main problems with the FIRE movement is sacrifice, 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 nirvana. And we finally reached the number. And it's like, okay, now it's time to shift everything that I have basically burned into my soul, right? Someone who's an aggressive spender, try and get them to spend a lot. Try, you know, not gonna happen.
Aggressive saver.
Aggressive, yeah, aggressive saver. Thank you. Try, right? It's very difficult to break those shackles, and it leaves for a lot of life left on the table. And here on the Five Guys, we talk a lot about not just finance. We talk about the person behind the finance. And we both want everybody to get as much as they can out of life. And being too much of a spender, too much of a saver, you're going to miss out on life. And we're trying to steer you right into the middle, right? So, I mean, what it's saying, I mean, I agree with it 100 million percent. What are your thoughts on it?
Just take it to another place that you kind of made me think of when you were saying that we all have a number, right?
Mhm.
And, my number is different than your number, different from our listeners' number, different from Joe Schmo on the street's number. But the hard thing, I think, for most people is that they actually don't understand why the number is the number that they have in their head. It's not based off of actual facts. It's not based off how much I'm spending, how much I think compounding is going to happen, how many years I have till I want to reach financial independence, based off my risk tolerance, nothing like that. It's based off of feeling. It's based off of when I was a kid, my grandma said $2 million was the number. And $2 million was back then, and $4 million is better than $2 million nowadays. So it's probably $4 million, right?
Yeah.
Yet your spending is $200,000 a year. $4 million is not going to do anything if you have $200,000 a year. And this is where things start to get a little difficult, is we need to start to figure out what is it right for you.
And I
So
think,
I'd like to pose a question. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
oh, sorry, I didn't mean to. I thought there was a good pause in there. I think what you said there is the embodiment of our entire podcast. It's financial independence, but it's understanding the person. It's getting to know yourself more. And we say this quote all the time, know thyself. Sun Tzu, right? Know thyself solves all problems. And exactly what you're saying is exactly what this whole podcast is all about. And we would appreciate it, if you really took in the information and not just listen, but really when you go out tonight or when you're alone, just think about the things that we speak on and really how do they affect your life? Because I think Chris is entertaining. I think I'm entertaining, right? But we don't want to just be entertaining. We want to teach you. And we want you to really open that muscle, that mind of yours, and really think about the things we're talking about and use it into your own life. Because entertainment without action is just that. It's entertainment, right? Education without action is just entertainment. So please continue. I kind of interrupted you a little bit there, but you said something. I was like, I gotta. You lit me up. You lit my brain up.
Of course. So, as we redefine toughness for financial independence, I want to pose you a question, Don. What's a popular piece of financial independence advice, FI advice, if you will, that is actually counterproductive without balance?
Without balance, interesting. I
As we
think.
search for this redefining toughness,
Mhm.
toughness, I would say, in taking to the extreme, it's lost balance. Just
Yeah.
like if you're on a pendulum, right? And you know, no work, no play, no trying hard. You're too far to the left, and it's out of balance.
Mhm.
If you're going too far to toughness, you're just gritting it out, and it really sucks. You hate it. You're out of balance. And all things in life is finding this balance. So, what's one thing you can think of that financial advice, financial gurus, other people with podcasts, YouTube videos, whatever, TikToks who are saying, if you want to be good with your money, you need to do this. And if you don't do this, not only are you a dumb person, you're immoral. What's something like that you can think of?
I think one of the things that I can think of, the first thing that comes to mind is being too much of a saver, right? It's one thing to live below your means. I agree with that 100%. I feel you should always live a little bit below your means, right? But living too far below your means, right? Even when, say I'm Dom, which I am, howdy, and I have an X job, right? I get a promotion. Well, rather than enjoying that promotion, I just stock it away. And then I get another promotion. I stock it away, right? But I'm still living on ramen and rice. I used to be like that. Not ramen and rice. For me, it was chicken tenders and chicken nuggets, right? I buy the 5-pound bags. It's a great value. Only when I started cooking did I understand how sad life really was back then and how I could never go back. And that's just a food reference. That has nothing to do with the rest of your life that you're missing out on. So I agree, living below your means is great. But when you take stuff to the extreme, like penny pinching like that and getting out of hand, you're missing out on what life's all about. And that's sharing memories with your family and experiencing life.
And just like you, I had that exact same experience. I wasn't so crazy that I was reusing toilet paper or, anything like that. But my wife was the one that really pulled me out of that to show me that, hey, there is a balance of living for today while planning for tomorrow. Now, on the opposite side of the coin, from cutting your expenses too far to the bone and losing balance that way, there's also the other side of the balance of hustling 24/7 in order to reach FI. So we always talk about financial independence as an equation, right? How much money you make minus how much money you spend. If we only focus on how much money you spend, you're out of balance in the equation because you're not focusing on how much money you're making. But if you're also only focused on how much money you're making and not focusing on how much money you're spending, you're out of balance again. And there's a lot of people in this financial independence realm who I wouldn't call are on the FI path, but are on a path to being quote unquote good with money. And they say, I'm not going to look at how much money I'm spending. I'm not going to look at my expenses. That doesn't matter. I can get out of it if I just hustle more, if I just bring in more money. And then every time that their income rises, so does their expenses. They're extricably linked every time. For some reason, I don't know what's happening. I make more money and I spend more money. I don't know why. It just seems like the world's against me because you're out of balance. You're not looking at both sides of the equation.
Yeah.
Hustling 24/7 to make more money is wonderful. But if you are burning yourself out, burning the candles on both ends to be quote unquote tough, to show other people that you can make it, that you're busy, that you're stronger, better, faster, that you can make your mom and dad proud. At the end of the day, when you have nothing and they have to come and save you, what would you rather have had? To pace yourself and being able to make it, or to have to wait for someone to come and save you because you ran out the gates? It's like running a marathon. I have never decided, or I don't know anything about running. I do know about jujitsu.
There we go.
So we just had, I just came back from jujitsu about an hour ago, and we were having the higher level jujitsu. So it was me and another guy, and we did basically 20 minutes of rounds. So our first round was 3 minutes, explosive, go for it. We took a 1 minute break, and then we went into a 12-minute round. Then we took a 2 minute break, and we went to a 5 minute round. So 20 minutes of fighting somebody is really, really tough. And if my goal was to win this fight over and over and over again by getting submissions, if in the first minute I decided to go full ham and try to do every single thing I knew, the next 19 minutes would have been me getting smashed. But it's all about that balance of finding the right amount of effort, the right amount of consistency that can keep you going the entire time. Because it wasn't about winning, it was about surviving. Because if you survive long enough, you are guaranteed to win.
I like that. I like that. That's so true. That's so true. That is so true. So you're saying it's good to pace yourself. I know the new year is upon us. It's good to create things and goals and really doing your tasks with sustainability in mind rather than all out. I'll just gut through it, just full gas the whole way. It's smarter. It's definitely a lot smarter.
And that's where we really need to redefine that toughness. Because what toughness would have been was be like, no, just go 100%. And then, you know how it would be like taking Usain Bolt
Okay.
and then taking him to a marathon and being like, Usain, what you do on the 100 meter, just do that consecutively for 26 miles and you'll do great. You're definitely going to win.
Mhm.
It's impossible. The body doesn't react that way. So we need to redefine toughness from being able to grit through it, being able to suffer longer, to being able to work smarter, to be able to figure out a way to continue to survive rather than winning right now. The
You
thing
know,
that makes human beings so special is not that we're the smartest, it's not that we're the strongest, it's not any of those things. It's that we're the most adaptable. That's the reason you can find us in every single area. We're in the Arctic, we're in the deserts, we're all over the place. Are very few animals, no animals really, besides microorganisms that can live in such extreme diversities. Human beings are the only ones that can because of our adaptability. Adaptability is toughness, but adaptability doesn't happen immediately. Adaptability comes with time, just like evolution.
you're 100% right. And when you were speaking on that, it kind of opened another thought up, right? Of how all things are connected. And in a book that comes up instantly is the Book of Five Rings. I believe it's called by Miyamoto Musashi. And it's so interesting because you were talking about how, right, to be good in one discipline is to be good in a different one. Well, not necessarily, but if you have the discipline and the framework to be good in one area, you can be good in another area. And I think too often we jump to what gets us to our goal quickest without realizing that there's so many other factors in play, um, such as the biggest one called life. Because on a perfect day, you could execute this plan, but it's never a perfect day, right? And you're never going to be operating at 100% efficiency every day, unless you're a friend of ours that wrote in, Kenny. Maybe you can operate 100% efficiency. That is some Five Guys lore. If you don't know what we're talking about, you'll have to listen to every Five Friday feedback viewer mailbag to figure out what I'm talking about. But I would. That's just a little side note. I would love to do a little book review on the Five Rings. Maybe there's sometime this year. I think that'd be a good book to do.
For sure. I'd have to figure out a way to bring it to a financial independence realm, but we
Yeah,
can definitely talk about that.
yeah. We'll have to figure it out. The discipline of saving. I don't know. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. That's for us to decide and the listeners to enjoy. But I would love to continue on
Of course.
with redefining toughness, all that fun stuff.
So the first segment we just talked about there was redefining what toughness is for Phi. In segment two, I want us to begin to lean into financial discomfort, becoming comfortable with leaning into that discomfort rather than hiding away from it. Because I think we all know what it is. Discomfort is a signal. And an example might be that sometimes people are feeling uneasy about budgeting or investing. That isn't a bad thing. it means you're pushing yourself into growth territory. But most people, when you talk about, hey, we need to talk about a budget, we need to talk about investing, or even take it to a simpler realm. Hey, how much is in your bank account right now? When's the last time you looked at how much money is going out, how much money is going in? That's the simplicity of budgeting, right? What's in your checking account? And you start to go, oh, feelings are coming up. I don't want to do it. I'm not even going to look at it. Now, could it be that looking at that's going to be so extreme that it's going to kill you? Could it be the toughest thing in the world and you're going to die? Maybe. I really doubt it. Or could it mean that you're pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone into growth territory? Because once you look at that bank account, once you're like, okay, not happy what I see, or maybe I am happy what I see. I'm going to put it away. The next day, I'm going to look at that bank account again. I'm going to do it again. So opening that app, opening that tab on your window, whatever it is, doesn't look so hard. There have been people that I have known who would go to the ATM and they would take money out and they would get that little receipt that comes out and they would crumble it up immediately and throw it away because they didn't even want to look at it. They didn't want to see how much is left inside the account. I know that I got money out. I don't want to deal with how much is left inside there. But if you looked at that every single time, it's going to start to build up that ability for you to do harder things. We need to sometimes lean into discomfort as well. This is the balance. This is the Tao. This is the way.
I think there's so much more to learn from that too, not just dealing with discomfort by opening up your bank account constantly, but also I don't know if you should do this as well. I know for me, this is something that I would like to do. Maybe a new habit I can start installing, but is checking my investments as well every day and watching them and paying attention to them. Not diligently, right? But just opening them up and, oh, this was up 0.5% today. This is up 5% today. Interesting. Wonder why, right? It kind of teaches you to be intriguing and ask more questions. And the more questions you ask, the more you can learn. And I think learning new things is always a benefit. But I like that. I like that the idea of, doing things daily to be better at doing harder things.
And I would say to that, if you are the person that wants to look at your accounts more often, it goes back to Sun Tzu's know thyself. There are many people, myself included, who can look at their accounts from a detached lens, up 5%, down 10%, doesn't matter to me anymore. But there are many people who don't understand that, who can't look at an account from a detached lens. If it's up 5%, they're like, okay, good, it's doing its thing. But if it's down 1%, they're freaking out and they're panic selling. They're doing things like that. So you really need to know yourself. For the average person, Dominic, I would say if you are doing a long-term buy and hold where you're buying an index fund and you're just dollar cost averaging in, the amount of times you need to check your accounts is approximately no. It is precisely 0 times. You don't need to look at that account. I would say rather than looking at the investments, how about we start to look at other things? We start to do actionable steps like tracking our expenses every week and building up that gradually. We need to recognize that discomfort is an opportunity to develop our resilience. So I would say that you taking it to, I want to look at my investing every day, that's taking it to the extreme. But also you and I are outside of the normal realm of people when it comes to finances. We host a financial independence podcast, for God's sakes.
Yeah. I
But
love the pivot there. I love that. I love that. I love that rather than doing this, well, why don't you track your expenses? I love that. That's so, and it's so much easier in today's age, right? Some of you, most of you, probably 99.9 of you aren't balancing a checkbook every week, right? You're not doing, you might not even know might not even know what a balanced checkbook is, right? But what Chris is saying, I love it. Maybe baby step one is looking at your bank account and every day and getting more comfortable with that. Step two could be, like you said, just itemizing and realizing where all your money is going. Oh, I spent $200 in entertainment this week. I spent $100 on groceries this week, right? I love that. I think that's actionable. I think that's very doable. And the better idea you have on your money, the more you can understand it. Well, one thing I don't want you to get to, I don't want you to get too attached to the money. Right? It's just a digit. It's just a number. It flows in, it flows out. So just a cautionary tale, I guess.
yeah, what I find with leaning into discomfort, and this is what I find a lot in my coaching programs, when I work with people, individuals, is that most people have no idea how much money they're making. When I ask them, hey, how much is your annual income? No idea. I would say 50% of people have no idea how much money they make, which to me is crazy. But this is normal for people because they're afraid to look at it. They know like, oh yeah, I was told I was going to make like this much, and I think I make that much. Like I don't know. I think it's that much. I don't know much after taxes, but I think it's like around here. So when you actually look at that after taxes, we get to get some real information. In addition to that, they have no idea how much they spend. So without those two things, it makes it really hard to know where you are against other people, or just to know where you are against yourself. And if you don't know how much money you're making, you don't know how much money you're spending, I can guarantee you don't know what your net worth is. And that's where people get really into the weeds. And that's where working with somebody like myself can be very helpful into get them to start to face that discomfort now rather than just pushing it off and pretending like it doesn't exist. Because when we begin to reduce our discretionary expending, when we begin to see how much money is coming in, how much money is going out, where our investments are, where our real estate is, all of these things, yes, it hurts right now, but that's growth. And that growth will pay off not today, but much later in the form of financial freedom.
Absolutely. It really does. Those small compounding habits and all that fun stuff pays dividends during your life. That's what we're working towards.
So we've already talked about a few of them, but I'd like to pose the question:
Mhm.
what's one financial discomfort you have leaned into, and how did that benefit you?
I know for me, I was that person that didn't like to check his bank account. I did not like checking it. I'd check my investments before I checked my bank account. And understanding the logic behind that, I have no idea. But that's who I was. I was afraid to check my bank.
It's tough, but being able to admit that and say, this is where I was. And now I'm a co-host on a financial independence podcast because I was able to make it through. I think shows volumes in that you're able to grow, you're able to learn, you're able to say, hey, I wasn't my final form back then. And today I'm still not at my final form. I would say that every 10 years, you know, maybe 10 years ago, you were in school, maybe you were in high school. I remember when I was recently coaching a dentist who was when I was in my coaching program. And I was asking him, he's like, no, like, I think I'm pretty much like where I am right now. Like, I don't know if I can get any better. And I was like, okay. So 10 years ago, you were in school, right? You were in your dental school. He's like, yeah. Like, so you've been doing this for 10 years. Yes. 10 years ago, would you do any of the things that you're comfortable doing today in terms of doing people's mouths, doing these advanced dentistry things that you do? He's like, oh God, no, I had no idea what I was doing. I just had like a rudimentary knowledge of things. And I said, okay, so why do you think right now is your final form? My thought process is if you continue to learn, you continue to grow, you continue to push yourself, in 10 years, you're going to look back on you right now and be like, oh God, that guy knew nothing about anything. And that's the balance of life. That is perfection, is that growth. Not that you are at your final destination now. That's not perfection. Perfection is that constant growth. Because in truth, you're never going to reach the end. You're just going to continue to try to get to higher and higher planes.
It's so interesting that someone with such stature and titles and financial respect can have a fixed mindset. And I think that's what's so interesting about personal growth is that it doesn't care if you're the president or if you're homeless. You can always be better. There's always room for growth in every area, in every direction.
One of the hardest things about fixed mindsets is that what I'm learning more and more about is that you can have a fixed mindset in one area that does not translate to another area. So overall, you could have a growth mindset, but you have areas in your brain that are fixed. And for many people, finances is one of those major ones. So that is what it is. People, a lot of people also have trouble with fitness, but with fitness, it's a little bit faster, right? You get to see physically, you see the transformation. If you can't run a mile, you can't walk a mile, and then you start to train after a week, okay, I can start to do this. And then like you can see the transformations happen fast. They slow down over time, obviously, but that's how it is with finances too. It's slow. You don't really see it unless you're tracking it. And if you're not
Mhm.
tracking, you don't know. But with your physical changes, you can see that a lot faster because you're looking at it every single day. And it's in the mirror. You can't really avoid it like you can. So I'd like to move on to section number 3, mastering self-talk for financial independence. Negative self-talk is a killer. And this is coming from a guy whose negative voice in his head is pernicious. My self-talk is quite awful majority of the time. And if I was somebody who was trying to continue to pursue financial independence, if I was stuck 10 years in the past from where I am right now. And I had self talk that said, I'll never get out of debt. I'm terrible with investing. I'm not good with money. I'm always going to be poor. People who have money are bad people. Why would I ever think that I could be financially independent if that was the self talk that I had? So, what we need to do is you need to begin to reframe that and replace it with this is a challenge, but I'm learning. Or I've made progress before, I can do it again. Even if it isn't in the area of finance, even if it's in the area of fitness, even if it's in the area of school, whatever it is, you have made progress before. If you are alive right now listening to this, you have made progress. You at one point weren't able to walk, you weren't able to talk, you weren't able to wipe your own ass. And now you can do all of those things. Someone had to be fully taking care of you your entire life. Look at the progress you have made. Why do you think that finances are any different?
It's not any different. It's not. It's all connected. Count your wins and don't forget them. But remember your losses and learn from them.
I think it's so important that as we celebrate those wins, we also make sure that we break it down into smaller parts. If my goal is to save $100,000, I don't think that until I hit $100,000, now I can finally celebrate. Because that means that that entire path, I am a failure. So we break it down into smaller milestones and we celebrate hitting that. Maybe I break it down into $10,000 increments. Maybe I break it down into tenths, seconds, 1%, whatever it is. But you need to give yourself those wins to see that you're actually making progress. Positive self talk keeps you motivated during setbacks, like market downturns, like unexpected expenses. There's always going to be something. The world is not perfect. Everyone has a plan until you get punched in the mouth. This is the vicissitudes of life. They're going to come, they're going to go. But if you have positive self talk, if you believe I can learn, I can overcome, I might not be the smartest person right now, but I know that I can adapt, it can take you so much further. Growing up, I thought I was stupid. In many ways, I still do think that. The hardest thing for me to do was to make the shift from trying to be the smartest person in the room to prove to other people that I was not dumb to being the person that was willing to outwork and outlearn you. I'm comfortable walking into the room and feeling like the dumbest person because I know in my heart of hearts that if I'm the dumbest person in the room, there is nothing but upward potential for me because I will elevate in that room to everyone around me. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Perfectly said. I was gonna finish you off with that perfect sentiment. Yeah, if you're the dumbest person in the room, you're in the right room. If you're the smartest person in the room, might be time to find a new room.
So I'd like to pose to you another question, Dominic.
Mm.
How do you keep yourself motivated during financial rough patches?
You know, philosophy has been one of my great loves, ever since I've met you. And when we do hit rough patches, it's not like I cannot believe this happened. There's been events in my life, we'll say in the world, that I would say that I can't believe that that's happened, right? Catastrophes, right? But in my own personal life, hitting rough patches, and it's to be expected. What keeps me motivated during those rough patches is knowing that this too shall pass. Because I'm a broken record sometimes, and this is one of those moments where, man, I hit a new milestone. Everything is great. I'm the richest. I'm the happiest. I'm the most spiritually connected. My body fat percentage is lowest. Everything's going great. My legs work. My mind is strong. That's great. Enjoy it. But this too shall pass. And same as the inverse. I'm fat. I'm poor. My legs aren't working very well. In every area, I might be down on the outside, but this too shall pass. But it takes work, it takes discipline, and knowing that that's what it takes. Work and discipline, a little bit of ingenuity. Oh, we can move back to the good side of life even quicker. But knowing that this too shall pass is something that gets me through life when it has those rough days.
Yeah, that's a really good one. That this too shall pass. Do you know where that comes from? That saying?
It's from a Chinese farmer. It's a Chinese proverb, correct?
It is a Chinese proverb, and there's a few different versions of it. I've always liked the Buddhist version of it because
Mhm.
I study Buddhism. And what it was there was a king who's lost his wife and his child, and he was distraught, couldn't get over it, couldn't let go. So he brought in the smartest monks within his kingdom to come, and he tasked them with creating a talisman or creating a piece of jewelry that could get him past this rough patch, to get him past it so that he could move on and live his life. So the monks left and they stayed away for a while, and then they come back with a small ring and they present that ring to the king. And then they say, Your Highness, this ring will solve your problems. This will allow you to see that you can move past this and that you will move past this. So he gets the ring and he looks at it, and inscribed outside of the ring is, This too shall pass. And in that moment, he was enlightened. It's that discomfort, the knowing. It's not that you're free when you're actually free. You're free when you have the knowledge that you will be free if you just stick to the path. And in this financial independence realm, the path is saving more than you're making, spending less, making more, investing the difference. Once you know that, you know your numbers, you know all these things, you are free. You are financially independent long before that number in your bank account hits you there, because you know that you will achieve it no matter what. And as the world changes, you also know that you have the ability and the knowledge to adapt and to figure out a new solution to a complex problem.
Most of life's troubles and success are all in the mind. And I think it's interesting because most of our life we spend alone, or at least that's how it's been for me. And I don't regret it. I love it. But it's almost like you want to stand on the top of a mountain. You're like, I did this, I did that, I did this. And it just doesn't matter to anybody. That's okay. Because what you do in the shadows matters to you and your God, if you believe. And as long as you have the developed mind, you can break out of the prison that you built. And it's tough to break out the mental shackles, the habits, the routines, the fixed mindset that even our dentist went through himself, where he believed he was at his fullest version. Now, one side could look at it as like, wow, he's at his peak, or he's trapped at his peak, or what he thinks of as his peak. And I love that thing that you said earlier in the podcast, Chris. It's stuck with me. It's just been rattling in my brain. It's like, we can have growth mindset in certain areas and fixed mindset in other areas. And it's so true. It's so true. Maybe you, the viewer, can think of an area where you believe your potential is limitless, and other areas where you don't have that same belief.
And that's not to say that we don't all have natural tendencies, things we're automatically good with. But that doesn't mean, and yes, it might be true, you can't make a racehorse out of a pig. But with time and effort, you can make a really fast pig.
Yeah.
So we can all do that with every aspect of our life. I'm not saying that the right thing is to always focus on your weakest things. I would not saying that at all. I think one of the best things you can do is lean into the things you're good at. And then on the back end, try to make other things that are important to you better. Because you can have anything you want, but you can't have everything. Every time that you choose to focus on one thing, you are saying no to an infinite number of other things you can focus on. We only have so much time. We have a finite life. So live it to the best of your ability. There is no right path. There's just your path. Dominic, would you mind if I move on to section 4?
Please, let's do it.
Section number 4, balancing financial stress and rest. This is finding that balance again and avoiding burnout. Because like we talk about every podcast, when we tell people to share the podcast with a friend, bring someone along for this journey, financial independence is not a fast journey. It is long. So sometimes that when you're working those extra hours to save aggressively without taking time for joy, you are risking the entire journey just for momentary satisfaction, just for momentary saying, like, I'm getting there a little bit faster. Rest is not weakness. It's essential for creativity and for clarity. We need to redefine that thought. I remember growing up and being like, you're sleeping? That's weak. Like, sleeping is weak. And now that I think about that, that's why I have eternal bags under my eyes, because I used to think that sleeping is weakness. That's probably the reason that I wake up at 4 a.m. nowadays still. That's probably all that stuff is all in that ingrained in my brain, that to sleep is to be weak. People who are strong get up and they get after it every single day. And that has served me to a point, and now it's no longer serving me. And I'm trying to correct anything taken to an extreme is a detriment, including water, including air.
So true. Everything taken to an extreme can be a detriment. It's all about that balance. And it's not I found the balance. I'm done. I wish if I could have a wish, that would be up there. Once you find that balance, you're good. But life is messy, life is tumultuous, and it's ever changing. You're never going to be in the same season twice. At least that's my thought, right? I'm not going back to school, back to high school, right? I was in a different season. 7 months ago, I was in a different season. You know, it's just a matter of adapt, overcome, and just repeat. That's just it. Just repeating it.
So I like to redefine everything from I have to burn myself out, burn the candles at both end to achieve financial independence. From someone who's lived that life, don't live that life. I want people to make it sustainable, sustainable saving, sustainable investing. The daily habits will always outperform the extreme events that you try to do. The Grand Canyon was not formed from one massive flood one time. It was formed from a small river flowing for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. We cannot have unsustainable approaches. If you want to go to the gym and decide, like, hey, I'm not going to work out for the whole year, but one day a year, I'm going to go and I'm going to work out so hard that it's going to make up for the rest of the year. That's not how the world works. The same way that you can't say, hey, I went to the dentist last year at this time. I haven't brushed my teeth. I haven't flossed the entire year. The day before I go to the dentist, I'm going to brush my teeth for 24 straight hours. I'm going to floss for 24 straight hours with a water pick. It does not work that way. You cannot have a baby faster by getting 9 women pregnant. It's an old Warren Buffett quote that I really like.
Some things just take time, and some things just take consistency, and that's okay.
That time, that consistency, that is the way. That is growth.
Yeah. There's so many things to learn on this journey, and I don't think there's an episode we could teach you all of it. But the more you stay along for the journey, the more you start to pick up. And just because Chris is teaching us, or I'm teaching you, or we're teaching each other, there's been moments on the podcast where we're having prolific thoughts in real time and growing in real time, really challenging our ideas. And I wish it's like, oh, viewers, read this specific book, personal growth, done. You're set up for life. That'd be so great. Maybe we should write it, but every person is different, and they absorb things different. And the more you stick around with like-minded people, of people you want to get to, the more you shift into those people and start to become what you wish to be. So if this is who you want to be, someone who's evolved more, their mind, their body, their spirit, their family, their finance, right? Feel free to hit the follow, right? If there's someone in your life that you want to see them grow as well, share the podcast. It's always more fun going with a friend. If you want to go far, go with a friend. If you want to go fast, go alone. We always recommend going with a friend.
Section number 5. We're going to bring all this together in some practical applications of our financial independence goals and how we can learn from this book to get us to where we want to go. And the number one thing is breaking down our goal and focusing on manageable pieces. If you say, I want to be financially independent, and let's say you actually know what your number is. Most people don't, but let's say you actually have done the research and hey, my number is $1.4 million. My number is $2 million, $3 million, whatever it is. And you say that until I reach that, I can't have fun. I can't go out and have pizza. I can't celebrate with my spouse. I can't pet the dog. I can't do anything until I reach that number. You will fail. I guarantee it. We need to break it down to manageable pieces. Even if that's, I'm going to save $50 a month. I want to save $10 from this paycheck. 1% better every single day. After 72 days, you are 100% better. Imagine that after a year. Do it over and over and over again until you reach where you want to be. And from someone who is not even close to reaching the peak, I don't think there is a peak. I don't think there is enlightenment that you can reach and finally be there. From someone who has had pretty prolific moments in his life that I still don't understand truly, and where I feel like, oh, this is what life is about. This all makes sense. The moment you have that feeling, that fleeting moment, it goes away and you go back into the normal life. I think that's the human condition, and that's part of it.
Perfectly said. Perfectly said indeed.
So break down the goals into small pieces, use tools to automate your savings, or accountability partners to keep you along the path. The next thing we need to focus on for practical tips is adaptability. Markets fluctuate. Life happens. The stock market could be up 20%, down 30% tomorrow. You can get a phone call saying that, hey, you're losing the house. Grandma died. Your wife got in a car crash. If that's the case, we need to adjust our strategy. That does not mean that you failed. That just means that life happened. If you're too rigid to your goal, you can't stay with your goal when life happens. In your mind, everything works perfectly because you control all the variables. But in life, in reality, you control none of the variables with the exception of the way that you choose to show up. If you choose to show up saying, oh, the plans failed anyway, so might as well just burn the boats, you will fail. A man can fail over and over again, but he is not a failure until he gives up.
So true. You're not a failure until you give up. So never quit. Never stop trying. Always keep pushing. And remember, the Five Guys will always be here for you.
Yeah, remember to like and subscribe.
Remember to like and subscribe and share the podcast with anybody and everyone. Yes and no. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's practical. That's doable. Automating, focusing on saving 500 a month or 200 baby steps. Save 100 this week. Save 100 this month, right? A giant avalanche starts with a small snowflake.
And the most important thing on this is to remember the long game. Toughness is about consistency and patience, not about quick wins. When I think of tough people in the sports of fighting, it's not the guy who came out there one time, won, and was like, I'm the champion, I'm done. It's the person that has endured for years and years and years at their peak. I think of like John Jones, someone who has been at the peak for 14 years as one of the best pound for pound fighters ever. That is where I look at it and say, that person is tough. If he came out one time, knocked someone's head off and they said, I'm done, I'm the best and left, you wouldn't even think of second thought. But his consistency, his effort, yes, he is crazy. He has all of these issues. What did you expect from someone who goes into a cage and whose career is to fight? It takes a different type of human being to do that. And we can still take things from him, maybe not all things from him, and apply that to our life to better our lives. You can learn something from everybody. Anybody can teach you something.
And that's so beautiful. You can learn anything from anyone. You don't have to go through an experience to learn from their experience. Some things can only be learned through going through an experience. But you can still gain a lot of knowledge from just learning from someone else's experience.
There's the dumb way of learning. That's, hey, is that stove hot? And you go and touch it, and you go, up, yeah, that's hot. Or you can watch your friend touch it and be like, okay, I watched him touch it, I know it's hot.
Exactly.
Let's learn smart. Learn from others. There are so many books, there are so many podcasts, there is the world of profound knowledge at our fingertips. Even ChatGPT, one of the greatest inventions of this century outside of the internet, is at our fingertips and can do all things. Not all things, can do a lot of things for advancing your knowledge. And you have that available to you every single day. But it takes you, the listener, it takes you, Dominic, me, myself, to consciously go out there and seek that knowledge, to try to get better, to try to grow. Our action step of the week is grab the book Do Hard Things by Steve Magness. That's Steve, Magness. Do Hard Things has a book or a title of, the thing has a mountain on it. If you don't want to buy the book, again, go to your local library, sign up. It is free. You are silly if you don't get it for free. Then go download Hoopla, download Libby, get them online. You don't even have to go to the library if you don't want to leave your house. As we close up, I want to recap some of our key points and how it ties into our FI journey. And the first thing is we need to redefine what toughness is. Toughness isn't gritting through pain. Toughness isn't tampering down your or hiding your emotions. Toughness isn't grinding and grinding and grinding until you are nothing but dust. Toughness is understanding the balance of life and working through it slowly, maybe not slowly, but working through it consistently with effort to get to where you need to go. There are times where we will need to embrace discomfort and know that that discomfort is a signal of our growth. The same way when you work out. Yeah, it hurts a little bit, but there's a difference between soreness and pain. And you need to find that for yourself. The next thing is we need to work on practicing positive self talk. Because if there's that little negative Nancy in the back of your head saying, you're going to fail, why even try? You're not even going to try it. The moment you find something that could work or has worked for other people, you're going to say, yeah, that might work for them, but not for me. How do you know that's true until you actually try it? And the final thing is we need to begin to work to balance effort and rest. So I encourage the listeners to reflect on one area where they can apply these principles in their life. Like we said, you can say overall I have a fixed mindset, overall I have a growth mindset, but I can pretty much assure you that regardless of what you say, there are areas in your psyche that you have one of those two traits. And what I'd say is we're going to go through and try to systematize and try to figure out which ones do I have a fixed mindset in, and let's go and try to change them by showing yourself that you can make it, by tracking progress, by getting a little bit better every single day, so that in 10 years you can look back on who you are right now and be like, man, that guy, that gal knew nothing. Look how much farther I have come, and I wonder where I'm going to be in 10 more years.
That's a good way to gauge the future. Where do you want to be in the future? Based on your actions today. So I hope this book has inspired you the way it's inspired us. I hope this podcast has inspired you the way it's inspired others. And we hope that you share this podcast with others. Because wouldn't it be great if the whole world focused a little bit more on growing themselves and growing their abilities? We believe so. So with that being said, any final thoughts, Chris?
No, I look forward to talking with you on Five Friday Feedback, seeing the listener there, and then we're gonna have some. I think what we're gonna do is we're just recap the book. We'll talk a bit more about the book rather than the financial realm of it, and then from there we're going to Five Friday Feedback. So I'm Chris. He's Dom, and hope you guys have a great week. Later,
Hey, guys.
This video podcast is sponsored by Monzon Wealth. The content in this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. We do not endorse specific products or services. Past performance does not guarantee future results. The opinions expressed are those of the host and guests, not the podcast sponsor.
It is crucial to consult with a qualified financial advisor or professional who can provide advice tailored to your specific needs before making any financial decisions, investments, or taking any other actions. If you are seeking specified help, you can reach out to Chris at monzonwealth.com.